Well, he might be one of the top guys too. I mean, he's if you watch the Four Nations, he was pretty effective. We think he's still got some gas in the tank. He's a dynamic player. He's a multifaceted attack, whether it's his skating, his grit, his skill, his hockey sense, his will to win, his compete. I know him through my experience with Tuukka Rask, who was my client and his teammate and friend, and speaks glowingly of his character. And he's a fun guy, and the guy you see on the ice is the guy that he is. So I'm really looking forward to adding him to our mix. I think he fits in, and he too can fit in. We have lots of guys that can move around, even within a game. So it'll be fun to see how it all sorts out, and where different players end up ultimately. And I suspect we'll see different schemes.
What did you learn last year about the value of maybe those extra pieces come playoff time?
Yeah, it becomes, first of all, you have injuries, you have fatigue, you have matchups, and sometimes the coaches like to put just change is good for change. Every once in a while, you just want a different look, a different scheme. Maybe, I don't know, you ever move the furniture in your office around, right? Or like it maybe that's a bad parallel, but that's it gives the coaches optionality. And with our team, not only can you go horizontally, but you can go vertically with a lot of these guys who have the ability to play in different places. So it's a tremendous asset.
Bill, could you give some insight on the Marchand trade? Was this someone you had looked at for a while? Or, I mean, it came at the last second of the trade deadline, which, so something must have happened there at the end.
You know, I don't know what happened. It did happen late. So I've said this a couple times. When you do the pro scouting, obviously, you know who Brad Marchand is, right? I mean, you played against him, and you know him inside out. But our pro scouts, and I think today is also a celebration of the work these men have done. We've built this through pro scouting, and it's tireless. It's controversial. Our meetings are nothing short of a brawl sometimes, but it's passionate people who care about the Florida Panthers, who want to win, who work their tails off, and who are pretty bright. So in the course of your pro scouting, you're constantly evaluating, you're filing reports, and you're ranking, and you could call any GM in the league, I suspect, I'm pretty sure, and ask them about any player in the league, and within a minute, they'll tell you everything you want to know about that player, what their team thinks about him, his strengths, his weaknesses. And so it's an ongoing narrative for each player, and that's our job. So
I just wanted to ask, how happy are you that you were able to add a guy like Brad Marchand without losing a roster player, a prospect? I know you value draft picks, but I mean, and then I got to follow up.
It was important. A player like this, a player like Seth too, like when these players become available and you have that need or that fit with your group, then you pursue it, in my mind. And we're thrilled, yeah.
And Don Sweeney was just talking about the condition. He said 25% of the playoff games, then he said 40. Could you clarify how that conditional second goes to a first?
Yeah, but it's 50% of the games played.
All games played or playoff games?
The playoff games.
So if he plays at
Yeah.
50%, it goes to a first.
Yeah.
Okay. And just your forward depth now. Last year we talked about that fourth line where you had five guys kind of, other than Stenlund, rotating in and out. Now you've got two centers and Nosek and Sturm, and I mean, it just looks like you're pretty good. You're pretty happy with.
Yeah, we're thrilled with the forward depth, and again, I'll go back and sort of illustrate the nuance here. Is that a lot of those guys can go up, so it gives you the same type of depth and flexibility, a little bit higher in the lineup, which is something I think we enjoy already, right? I don't know what you would characterize. I'll just use Anton as an example. Is he third line guy? Well, he can play with anybody, right? And then we always joke that, well, anybody can be a first line guy, and it's because Barkey can play with anybody. So That was a joke. Okay. But yeah, so yes, we're happy with the depth and appreciative.
Well, and just kind of adding to what George was referencing, Bill, you already had a team built before the trade deadline that could easily make it back to the cup final. To be able to add depth at the forward position, to be able to add a Seth Jones to the back end, to add depth to the goalie position, how much stronger do you feel this team is to date and even where you guys started at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think Seth helps in the fact that he's going to be here for a while, and then we have him for a term. That's a big part of that equation. It was a tall payment that we made, and we'll see. Like it's I don't know. I said a couple of days ago, it's not necessarily the addition and the total of the value of your assets that determines who wins. It's a team, but we do think that they're character guys, and we spend an awful lot of time making sure that as best we can, we know that as people that they're going to fit into that room, because that's everything.
Bill, I want you to touch on the beginning with the goaltender situation, the goaltender department, just the fact that you have seen the track record over the last year since you guys put that together. How much did that help with, obviously Spencer is a big guy to trade away, but just the confidence that you have knowing that they have a track record since they got here, that you can figure out ways that you're going to replace and be able to rebuild that position?
Yeah, it's a considerable tool, weapon, luxury that we enjoy. And I think if you look at the goalies who've been here, certainly since I've been here, whether it was Dreege or Alex Lyon or Spence or even Bob, the evolution of all of them to be the best goalies that they can be. And 100% of the credit goes to Lou and Robbie and Leo Luongo and Francois. And yeah, we're lucky, very lucky to have those gentlemen.
I wanted to ask you about, in terms of bringing in Brad, and bringing all the moves that you made. A week ago, or a week, 2 weeks ago, completely different situation. Matthew was healthy, salary cap was changed. In terms of like how you had to change your mindset, just after Matthew got hurt and you had different options now, how hard is it to go into like, oh, we're going to go into the trade deadline with this, and then everything changes? You've obviously made a lot of moves in that regard.
So I'll go back to the process that we use. You're already prepared for what if and whatever, because you know, like in the course of our meetings, in the course of our discussions, in the course of the weekly pro phone calls, you cover everybody. And so there's a what if you can you do this? When these situations present themselves, what would you do? And when we found out about Matthew and said, okay, we may have some more space, the narrative on each player was already written in our minds. So it was more of a, does this fit? Can that fit? Well, what's the cost? That type of thing. So it's not as onerous as you would think as far as what you want to do. Actually getting it done is really a function of the other teams, who's available, and that type of situation.
Did you find that you were getting more calls after you find more cap space to work with?
I don't know. It's a pretty thorough process for everybody. So I have calls with people. I look at the roster, I look at their list, there's no fit. For sure, right? I've got nothing to give them and they've got nothing that I think I could get. And lo and behold, hey, would you take this guy? Oh, who knew? So that happens, and that's part of the process as well.
Bill, going back to Brad, obviously a big personality, joining a team full of big personalities. How excited are you to see just how he fits in the room with the groups? And obviously, since they're both rehabbing, I imagine he'll spend some time with Chucky early on. How beneficial do you think that will be just in terms of welcoming him into the group?
Yeah, I like I said, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I suspect that it's going to be a rather seamless. Our group is a very welcoming, very kind. I mean, you guys know. I mean, it's a community, and they're very open, very concerned about each other, and I think he'll fit famously.
Bill, everybody knows your window is now. How much did that plan to you? Okay, we're gonna make some big moves if it works out this trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, right? Like if we have this opportunity now and then we have the opportunity to get better and to improve, it's a decision that you make, and, you know, some of those picks that are gone later on, we're gonna have to replenish or find alternative ways. Our scouts have been very, very adept at finding the free agents, at getting players to replace picks, and we'll continue to do that, and I suspect that we'll work even harder.
Thanks, guys, we'll take a few more.
As a hockey fan, how much are you looking forward to being in
Yeah.
that box and watching I can't say the
I
word,
think
but
all
getting
of
it all
us.
stirred up.
I mean, I think all of us are just looking forward to seeing, you know, on the heels of the Four Nations, and you saw Sam Bennett and Marcy play together, and it's great for the sport, right? Like it's exciting, it's fun, and probably all of you, I would think, when you think about the hockey side of it and the fan side of it, the romantic love of the game, you smile and you're like, this is going to be pretty fun.